Well, hello everybody. Good evening. Welcome to another Mexican Crossing Lines. PsyOp BS Part 7. 7 times we've been doing this. It's a lot of BS to go through. You're listening to KPPP LP 88.1 Fargo Moorhead, adding local color to your airwaves. And there's our host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
Hello there. Get ready. It's going to be fun. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, if you want to share this out, we are streaming simulcasts on YouTube at Duke1517, on Facebook at 88.1 Fargo Moorhead, and on Twitch at A Mexican Crossing Lines. You can give us a call if you want to leave a message for us. It's at 701-566-0917. You can get a hold of Cindy at kpppfm.com or me, Duke, at kpppfm.com. You can also find our Twitter at media_PPP.
That is correct, folks. And invite your friends or share our show. Also, you can subscribe to our channels. You can find us on Twitter at media_PPP. You can find us on YouTube at Duke1517.
Yep.
Twitch at A Mexican Crossing Lines.
That's right. You know, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel and you ring the little bell, you'll get notified whenever we put a new show out. We've been doing a couple a week and sometimes more than a couple a week, but we are seventh inning in with the PsyOp BS. It's going to be a great show.
I haven't even left the first podcast, Genesis.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just ripping apart all of the people that produced it. And just, like the basics, the things that I think any logical, any human with two neurons to rub together could have figured out on their own.
Yep.
But which, for some reason, escaped the likes of journalist, quote-unquote journalist, Emily Bix, and the director, Jack Bryan. His girlfriend is Emily Bix. And then, of course, you've got Stacy Scher, Jack Bryan, and Marley Clemens, who produced this show along with executive producers Grant DeSimone and Brett Meiselas of The Midas Touch.
Oh, yeah.
And as I told you, I don't think that they did their homework or they're complicit in trying to whitewash the image of the people that collaborated on this program, the people that are the subject of this program, Wesley Clark Jr., and the folks that have been promoting and vicariously at the same time promoting themselves.
Exactly.
Like Dr. Hassan and Jim Stewartson.
Oh, yeah. And I think they're just using it as a front. I don't think anyone's really listened to all 9 hours, over 9 hours of episodes by the PsyOp BS, American PsyOp BS. Because all the things I've seen is great reviews, one of the most intriguing podcasts I've heard in a long time. It's like, did you listen to it? Did you get into it and listen to the ramblings for hours and hours and hours? Especially episodes 7 and 8. I mean, those are the ones that hit home for us with some copyright infringement and things out of context and character assassination, and also no giving resources of where this stuff came from or who these people are. Just first names only, I guess. Yeah,
they just randomly made defamatory statements about us at the station and other people throughout these podcasts, or poocasts, as I call them, poopcasts. And we are showing you how simple it is to use the Google machine and find things. One of the people that has been watching my programs, I guess for a while now, Arturo Tafoya, sent me this tweet from a while back on the recent show that we did on Akon. And it seems that Akon was not just involved in the presidential campaign of Brock Pierce, the cryptocurrency accused of sexual abuse of minors, presidential candidate guy that we've been featuring, that Wes Clark was tagged in, going all the way back to, the caravans and
exactly.
Puerto Rico, right after Standing Rock. And this is what he was into. Akon, I mean. He was promoting a form of cryptocurrency, and he was promoting Cicada 3301. And Arturo tweeted at Akon in response to his tweet about Cicada 3301 and said, "Hey, Akon, why are you associating with convicted criminals like Thomas Schoenberger or Michael Levine, owner of the Cicada 3301 trademark? I'm sure at Will Somer, at Rocco Castoro, at Cullen Hoback, at Jack Bryan, at Peter Del One, and at Laura Granora can tell you about 3301. Like, why are you doing this?"
Yeah, exactly.
And there's plenty of people that could tell you how harmful this is. My question is, this was published in November 22nd of 2021. So how did Jack Bryan not understand the connections between Wesley Clark and the people
Okay, yeah.
that are affiliated with QAnon and 3301? I don't know. I don't know how you missed that unless you're like haciéndose del ojo chiquito, like you're trying to miss it. You're willfully ignorant.
Exactly.
And I want to play you the video that is connected to that tweet of Akon promoting Cicada 3301. Here he is on a boat.
So listen, this Cicada 3301 just might be behind the walls over there. Or even in that tunnel.
In the tunnel? So, did you hear what he said?
Said this is where cicadas lives, or
Cicada 3301
That's
might
right.
be over there,
That's
he
right.
said. Or might be in the tunnel. And then
Yes.
he laughed.
oh yeah,
So, the connections to the Cicada 3301 and to QAnon, they continue to come up. So, I wanted to share that with you. And I also wanted to go back to the other connections of the recent shows. But first, I want to mention that other people criticized Akon in the comments of that video. Here's just one of the many comments he got. Dude, you're tying yourself to QAnon through 3301? Just think about the murders and other assorted crimes involved with the QAnon affiliated cults. Dude! Wow.
wow.
And does Akon seem to care? No, he doesn't care. So I showed you that Wesley Clark did interviews with one John B. Wells. I showed you that John B. Wells was part of the alt-right, was the kind of person that calls Michelle Obama a man,
Oh, that's
that
right,
says that, you know, they're the original people that hate Obama, that were part of the birther movement way back when. Like, these are the people that are, you know, anti-vax, anti-LGBTQ, all of that. Although John Wells no longer has his show anymore. But back in the day, during what was happening at Standing Rock, James Martinez and Wes Clark were going to his station, his program, John B. Wells,
Yep.
who is like the equivalent of a InfoWars, you know, Alex Jones
type
style of a broadcaster. No joke.
Yeah.
Very, very direct comparison can be made.
And he made a lot of Sandy Hook comments too. You know?
Conspiracy theories abound. Yes, that kind of guy. He went there not only in December of 2016, he was there before in November, and you can find this full broadcast day. We'll be putting that on our website along with this program on kpppfm.com, along with all the other programs that we've done on PsyOp BS about this American PsyOp podcast that was produced by the Midas Touch and the Bunker Crew. And so we're doing a rebuttal response to their BS because they know better or should have known better than to put out this garbage, this hot garbage that they put out in this podcast. And since they don't know how to do journalism work, we're going to show them how. Here is one of the other interviews that was done with Martinez and Wes Clark in November. And you can find it on the Conspiracy Distillery, but actually originally came from a YouTube channel with a guy named, I don't know, I think maybe it's FUTCH.
Oh.
It's at FUT. I don't want to say it out.
That's right.
I don't try to pronounce it. FUTCH 2313. If you want to go to find the original on YouTube, which is where the Conspiracy Distillery pulled that video down from and put it on their website. But there's the screen capture. I want you to see.
And this is just a couple-minute clip on part of it. Part of this.
This is just the screen capture of the website where you can find this interview that we're going to be playing. The Wesley Clark and James Martinez interview with Wells in just a moment. But first, I want to tell you about what's also on this particular broadcast. Now, I told you it's full of conspiracy theories. It's full of lies. It's full of like UFO stuff, like, you know, like InfoWars.
Yeah.
Like that kind of like the frogs are turning people gay thing, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, sex colonies of children on Mars kind of stuff.
That's right.
Robert David Steele kind of. Yeah, that's what John B. Wells is into. And just to give you an example on this particular broadcast, and again, you'll be able to find the whole thing on our website at kpppfm.com. So do feel free to go and listen to the whole thing. But I'm just going to play you a little clip of the interview that he did right before James Martinez and Wesley Clark Jr. with a dude by the name of Wolfgang Halbig.
That's right.
And I'll tell you a little bit more about this dude in a minute. Here is the Wolfgang Halbig clip from this show. He's a conspiracy theorist about Sandy Hook.
Okay.
Here we go.
The man, the myth, the legend, Wolfgang Halbig. Wolfgang, how are you?
Well, I'm sort of concerned when you use the word legend. You know, legends are in the ground. They're dead, never to be heard from again.
Yeah, well, did you get those screenshots?
I haven't seen anything about that, but I didn't know I was a legend.
Yeah, you're definitely a legend. But let's just modify that to the living legend. Because, there were a couple of posts, one on Facebook and one via somebody's Gmail account, that indicated that you were found in your home in Florida having expired. And I just said, you know what? I call Bravo Sierra on this before I even know anything about it. This is I don't know what this is, but whatever it is, it's wrong. And here you are, so woohoo, I was right. And I'm real happy about that, thank God, but I'm just wondering why somebody would send out something like that.
You know what? And that makes you really wonder what kind of people, what's the mindset of some of these people that would even do that? And again, nothing surprises me anymore. With everything that's happening to me and Jonathan Reich, I mean, let me tell you something. I just hope somebody in your listening audience has a contact with President-elect Donald Trump or somebody on his staff. I just talked to the district attorney this morning in New York, where they have now not allowed Jonathan Reich to post bail. I talked to the state attorney this morning, and he said, I don't give a damn what you said. I mean, I've got it recorded. He said, I'm going to keep him in jail for 90 days. He's refusing to be extradited back to Connecticut, so we're going to keep him in our jail for 90 days and let him think about it. Now, whatever happened to emotions and caring and feeling and justice and due process?
Let's bring everybody up to speed. Jonathan Reich he's in trouble because he made a couple of phone calls and asked some questions, right?
And this is the key, right, John? But listen to the listener. The key, please write this down. He did that, right after Sandy Hook, and it was driven by the medical examiner, Dr. Wayne Carver, on his national news conference when he made all of those stupid, ridiculous comments. Jonathan called him up at the office and said, look, I want to ask you some questions. And he kept calling and calling and calling. And John, finally, the medical examiner filed charges at the Avon, Connecticut Police Department, and they had Jonathan arrested.
Now, actually, Jonathan Reich was arrested because Jonathan Reich was harassing, and here is a excerpt from the website on Mr. Halbig that tells you more about Jonathan Reich's arrest. And it says that he is a Sandy Hook truther from New York who in 2013 decided it would be a keen idea to call up the medical examiner in Connecticut who had worked on this case, and using a distorted voice, be really creepy and keep doing it over and over again. So it wasn't that he just called and asked questions. He was calling with some kind of weird voice and freaking out the medical exam. That's harassment.
Yep.
And of course, it says that Wolfgang loves himself some Jonathan Reich, and that Jonathan basically got stuck in Rikers because he's too stupid to have allowed extradition back to Connecticut, where it wouldn't have gone like that for him. And there's a bunch of other people on this page that are associates of Mr. Halbig, who are also truthers like Tony Mead. He's a false flag hoaxer. And you can see here, there's a little video about him and the rise of the crisis actor conspiracy movement on Vice, which is also on the same page. And another Sandy Hook hoaxer, James F. Tracy, who was a tenured professor at Florida Atlantic University until 2012. And then from 2012 to 2015, he was a tenured professor and also a Sandy Hook hoaxer, playing a key role in spreading this hoax narrative in the days immediately after the tragedy. Since 2016. Wow. He's just a Sandy Hook hoaxer and also an unemployed bankrupt loser. Anyway, this is according to the page.
It's on the page, yes.
I'm just reading what it says on the page. Now, and there's a whole 9-part series detailing that guy's life on another page that is linked on this same website. So if you want to go and learn more about all of these other con artists and hoaxers that are associated with this conspiracy theory, being interviewed by John B. Wells on his night caravan, midnight caravan show that he had. But the most creepy one is this associate, Professor Doom, Philip Danny Craig, called Professor Doom. This guy was once incarcerated in California for multiple violent crimes, including robbing an elderly man with a shotgun.
Wow.
But in 2014, he was out on the streets again, and when Wolfgang Halbig started his Sandy Hook Justice hoax campaign, Doom was one of the most enthusiastic misfits to answer the call and join his campaign. He would release unhinged YouTube videos every day spouting incoherent conspiracy theories and falsehoods about the Sandy Hook families, and sometimes he would even threaten to commit acts of violence against the families. Real charmer guy, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Look at him. He looks like some kind of Dick Tracy villain. Wolfgang himself even appeared on Craigie's YouTube channel to promote his hoax nonsense and ask viewers for money. And he complimented Philip Danny Craigie's quote-unquote research and encouraged him to continue. Then in 2017, Professor Doom, otherwise known as Philip Danny Craigie, was identified as a suspect in an attempted homicide in Montana.
Wow.
He had approached his victim in broad daylight and stabbed them multiple times before making his getaway on a bicycle. The cops arrested him in his trailer park house, and he has been trailer parks are it's a mobile home.
Yeah.
So he was in a trailer park in a mobile home, and he's been locked up ever since. This latest violent criminal offense didn't have anything to do with Sandy Hook, but it's worth noting that when Wolfgang Halbig goes to rile up online conspiracy theorists, this is the sort of person that ends up going and investigating these traumatized families after these mass shootings. And I wanted to show you an update on this Danny Doom guy because he's out in 2020 due to the COVID outbreak in the corrections facility. He was given an early parole. And so he is out, and the first thing he did was to make a super creepy YouTube video wearing that, like, Day of the Dead mask and this creepy red light. And he announces his return in this video and also gives a shout out to Wolfgang by name and also another dude called Tony. Note that Tony is the other hardcore Tony Mead that we just talked about.
That's right.
He's another hoaxer about Sandy Hook. So he gives a shout out to his pals and buddies that he's back. That's who John B. Wells, that's who Wesley Clark followed on the day of this broadcast. And just to give you a little bit more background on this guy, if you want to go down the rabbit hole and find out how insane and psychopathic this guy, Wolfgang Halbig, is, just go find the website. You can go to this page, and it's all about Wolfgang Halbig. It's called Get Rich or Lie Trying, The Life of Wolfgang Halbig, The Hoax of a Lifetime. And it's got an archive of all these different chapters of his life from the early years. And it talks about his being born and growing up in Germany, and then and with his grandparents and being abandoned by his mom. Maybe that's why he has mommy issues. And then also having to come back, coming back to the United States with his mom and her boyfriend, and entering the school system. He actually started off as a football player.
Okay.
He didn't sign up for the draft, so he missed an opportunity to get a football scholarship. But he did go on to play football, and then eventually he was a teacher. Not a very good one, but he was a teacher for a while, and even became a principal in charge of security.
Really?
One of the other many conspiracies that he complained about throughout his life, if you go through the whole litany of his story, is that when he was a principal and he was the head of security for schools in the state of Florida, he purchased like this $50,000 piece of equipment back in like the 80s, which is a lot of money even now. And it was a hoax. It was like an antenna that was wired to an empty box.
Oh, really?
It was kind of like some kind of divining rod type of, but it was supposed to be able to detect not only weapons, but gunpowder, drugs, any kind of contraband. So he would say that like he could point it at a car, and if you drove by like a carload of kids smoking marijuana or that had taken drugs drove by, he would be able to detect it even if it was in their system, if they had ingested it or smoked it, and it was complete bunk. Yeah. None of it was true. But he purchased this very, very expensive piece of equipment. Can you believe that?
I have exactly the same thing. All I have to do is look, and I look at a car driving by. I can tell what's going on in there.
Robert! Yeah, that's about the size of it. That is about the size of the con that these people are into. It is Mickey Mouse-like ridiculousness. The whole life of this guy is like that. And, once you start looking at the lives of some of these hoaxsters, they're bankrupt, they're losers, their wife left them, they They never amounted to much in their life. They always wanted to, but they never quite did. They never quite made it. And so they end up like Wolfgang Halbig, who was eventually arrested. As much as he talked about in this broadcast, how he's going to sue and how he can't wait to take all these people to court because he's going to find these kids and he's going to save the kids and he's going to prove that all these people are crooked and corrupt. He wanted to make himself the center of attention. That's all it was. 73-year-old grown man, Wolfgang Halbig, was charged with unlawful possession of the personal identification of Leonard Ponzer, whose son was killed in the shooting. He stole the identity of one of the grieving parents.
Wow.
Why? So that he could try to continue to get information that is only allowed to be given to the parents. Mr. Halbig has continued to torment the victims' families through emails, phone calls, according to an affidavit by the victims. He was released on $5,000 bond and will appear in court next month. This is an old article from 2020, I think. And Mr. Halbig was accused by Mr. Ponzer of taking his personal information, including his social security number.
Wow.
That's identity theft. Hundreds of people's hundreds of people via email, including numerous law enforcement and news agencies.
Wow.
He sent this man's
that stuff to all those people.
Yes.
Wow.
And in this next excerpt from that same article, you can find out more about what Mr. Halbig was accused of and what the victims of the Sandy Hook shooting had to say. Defendant Halbig has contacted the victims' family members and continued to harass them, asking questions and alleging the children involved are crisis actors. Mr. Posner told the New York Times, for 5 years, he's used my most personal and private details to incentivize and enable other hoaxers and conspiracy theories to hunt, abuse, and terrorize my family and myself. We have a long way to go, but this is a positive step in the right direction, he said of Halbig's arrest. Halbig was released. His arraignment was scheduled for the 24th of February, and he could face up to a year in prison. I'm sure that that's already taken place by now.
Yeah.
20 children under the age of 10, 6 adults were killed in the Sandy Hook elementary shootings in Connecticut, December of 2012. In the years after the shooting, Halbig, a retired public school official, he was a teacher and a coach and an assistant coach. He worked with prominent conspiracy theorists and U.S. radio host Alex Jones to harass victims' families and promote a false claim that the shooting was a government hoax designed to take away the rights of Americans to bear arms.
Yes.
That was the whole thing. And it wasn't just Alex Jones and InfoWars that he paired up with to perpetrate this hoax and to harass the families of victims of the Sandy Hook shooting. He did it with John B. Wells. That is who he is being interviewed by on this radio broadcast on the day that James Martinez and Wesley Clark Jr., two other cult members and hoaxers and psyopers, went to do on this man's broadcast. If this isn't a red flag, please go and watch my last program in which I shared another interview by Mr. Wells of Wesley Clark and James Martinez. And in the comments section of the Conspiracy Distillery page, one of the other people that was consulted and interviewed by the American PsyOp crew and producers, including Jack Bryan, is Arturo Tefoya. He was part of Cicada 3301 in its inception, and he brought up the fact that Wesley Clark Jr. interviewed with a conspiracy theory alt-right cuckoo bird John Wells on his broadcast, and that Jack Bryan ignored it, demanded to have some kind of voice analysis of the broadcast because he couldn't. You can't prove that. Prove to me that it's him.
Oh, I can tell it's him.
Everybody can tell it's him. And of course, Jack Bryan would be able to tell it's him because he's been working with the dude for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, some people like to, as we say in Spanish, navegar con bandera de pendejo. They want to be willfully ignorant, pretend that they're dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell what that voice is. I don't know who that is.
Could be anybody.
It could be anybody. But it's not. We know it's Wesley Clark Jr. So now we're going to share with you the actual interview with James Martinez and Wesley Clark Jr. It is about an hour long, but I do want you to carefully listen because this is right before Wesley Clark goes out. So we know that this interview took place after President Trump was elected in November of 2016.
Yep.
Because they say, or Halbig says, please, to your listeners, I hope somebody has a way of getting in contact with President-elect Donald J. Trump.
Yep.
So we know that it's after November 20th, right?
Yep.
And we know that it's before December 1st when Wesley Clark actually arrives at Standing Rock because, as you're about to hear, when Wells introduces Martinez and Clark, he says, we're going to hear from people that are on the ground at Standing Rock. And when they come on the program, they go, we're not on the ground at Standing Rock.
We're en route. We're en route.
They say we're on the way,
Yep.
right? So we know that it's after November 20th and before December 1st, which is when Wesley Clark actually arrived at Standing Rock. And the other thing that I want you to listen for is what Wesley Clark says about how he has been coordinating with all of the groups that are already at Standing Rock before he gets there.
Exactly.
So his claims that he was just, you know, blindsided. He didn't know what was going on. He didn't know anyone there. He wasn't connected to them. He didn't organize with them is all bunk because he did. And he tells John B. Wells that he gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning and checks his emails and he's connecting with all of these different groups. He tells John that they have troops on the ground, that he has 200 to 300 people that are constantly, that have been there, that are reporting back to him, and that he is coordinating all of these different groups. What groups? Well, we know what groups now because we know all of the groups that went to Standing Rock that subsequently he continued to work with and all sorts of different campaigns that have gone on all the way to January 6th insurrection, right? The same people that we saw at Standing Rock that Wes Clark was riling up and organizing with and part of the I Am cult with and all of the things that he says in the American PsyOp all went all the way into QAnon and insurrection, okay? And it was going on from the very beginning, so don't let this man try to fool you. Also, I want you to listen to the kind of conviction he expresses that he has to protect the Native American people and what he's willing to do for them. He claims he is willing to give his life, and he would happily go to Standing Rock and die, and that he is not going to leave these people alone. In fact, if they threaten to kill those people, they're going to have more people come out.
Yep.
They're going to show up with more people.
10,000.
10,000, 50,000. They're going to bring more and more people out there so that he's going to protect them and he will lay his life on the line. And instead, now that, you know, in hindsight, we can look back at what he actually did. Like the coward that he is, he left. And he left all of those veterans in the lurch and washed his hands of the whole thing and pretended that he didn't continue to work with all those people because he was a victim and he was going crazy and he was having problems when in reality, in the interviews he does with John B. Wells, he says he's of sound-minded body. He doesn't have depression. He's not going through any mental anguish, and he is fully prepared to continue working with the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock and Michael A. Wood Jr. beyond into Flint and other campaigns to do what's right for this country. What a hypocrite. What a liar. Here's that interview.
all the other dominoes will surely follow. About this, this problem up in Dakota. And it's over a pipeline. Over the last few weeks, I've heard all kinds of things about what's happening to the Sioux, specifically the Lakota Sioux Standing Rock tribe. I mean, I'm hearing everything from rubber bullets to dog cages and everything in between. It appears this is another, well, I really don't want to get too far ahead of the story, and I don't want to, put some sort of a whammy on it, but this is beginning to look a little bit like a potential wounded knee if things spin any further out of control. But I'm not on the ground there. However, two gentlemen are. James Martinez, a media ecologist, radio talk show host, and pioneer in radio broadcasting and behavior modification, is with us, along with Wesley Clark Jr. You may recall General Wesley Clark was going to make a run for the presidency some years ago. Well, his son is with us now, and they are both, Mr. Martinez and Mr. Clark, are both on the ground up there in Dakota. So let's just bring them on and find out what's going on. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. It's good to have you.
Hey, how you doing? Real quick, though I'm not on the ground yet, I am en route.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I appreciate your clarification. What, James, you're already there, yeah?
No, I'm en route too.
Okay, you're both en route.
Both en route, yeah.
Okay. Well, without actually being there and seeing it like in 3 dimensions and all, what's the situation there as you understand it?
You want to go, or you want me to talk? All right. Well, the situation as I understand it, I kind of followed it on independent media and Twitter and Facebook and stuff, starting in, I don't know, probably August or September. And James had called me around the end of September, and he said, "Hey man, I knew Russell Means, and he says we got to get in touch with you and get vets to help." And I was like, "What? Who's this guy? And who's Russell Means? And who are these? What are the specifics of this?" And then he put me on the phone with a tribal elder, a woman by the name of Phyllis Young, and she described how, Morton County Sheriff and private mercenary companies had attacked women and children with dogs and had them bitten, and how old ladies praying were being beaten up and had stun guns used on them and hit with truncheons and dragged away, and they were putting people in dog kennel cages to hold them. And I've heard they've been hooding people. Even got reports that there was a native vet a couple weeks ago that got captured by some of these mercenaries and was waterboarded. And when she talked to me that time, and I'll be honest with you, man, I've been a agnostic at best in my adult life. And but when she was talking to me, like I grew up Catholic, and I just remember sitting in church and hearing, from the gospel, that how you treat the least of my brothers is how you treat me. And it started to light just like a fire in me. And I did everything I could to look into it. I mean, the specifics of it are pretty simple. The pipeline is supposed to be transporting oil from the back in oil fields down south. And the people of Bismarck didn't want it going near their city. So they figured, we'll just have it go through the Indian reservation. And of course, the Standing Rock tribe didn't take part in any of this, in any of the decision making. They didn't show up to stuff, meetings that were held and other things. So they never gave their consent for this to happen. And then they went out and they started bulldozing, people's graves and sacred sites. And they're going to put a pipeline under the river and across the river. And look, man, when you think about, for me, I mean, this is beyond, the constitutional problems here, because we signed a treaty with the Sioux, as we have with many other tribal nations, and we have continued to break those treaties. And those treaties are law under the Constitution. And we have run roughshod over these people for generations. But for me, the other fear is that, you know what the Ogallala Aquifer is?
I do not.
Well, the Ogallala Aquifer is when people sink a pipe down into the ground to get irrigation water, under the breadbasket of the United States and Nebraska and Kansas and all these areas. This is all coming from the Ogallala Aquifer. And that's a non-replenishable aquifer that is going to run out of water in 2023. So what's going to be worth more money by the time they're done building this? Water or oil?
I'm thinking water.
Is going to be water.
Oh, yeah.
And I grew up in the service, and then I served as an Army officer. I went to the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown. And I can put an overlay on any map in the world where there's water shortages, and you're going to see violence, political violence. And all these other issues we got in the country, they're all kind of tied together with this stuff. But imagine what's going to happen, because you got a long-term drought in California, which is, the Central Valley was some of the most productive agricultural land we had till the drought struck. And then you're going to have no irrigation water in the Midwest. And you're suffering from a drought in the Southwest. And the city of Atlanta nearly ran out of water just, what was that, a year, 2 years ago? Water is something we need to take care of. Because, look, man, we can live without money and we can live without oil, but we cannot live without water.
Well, most people don't know.
That river provides water for 19 million people.
Yeah, and the water that we have on this planet is all the water that we're ever going to have. The water that we see coming, I mean, that's it. They're not making any more of it. What we have is what we have, and that's it. And I don't think people have really taken that thought to heart, because you can desalinate all you want, but guess what? The water goes up to the clouds through evaporation, and then it comes back down to the form of rain. But you're not getting any more. It's impossible. And so
I know.
So wow.
And when you think about, and a lot of the reason, look, I'm a regular dude. All right, I do what I can to make a living, and I don't live fat or anything like that. And God knows I'm not important. I don't have any position or anything, but when I think about all these issues, and for me as a white guy who lives out in California, I'm not that close to the land, so we don't notice it as much in our cities. Because look, most Americans, they get up in the morning, they got to rush to work, they got to make their kids breakfast, and then they got to pack a lunch for them for school. They're in traffic on the way to the office. They're sitting in the office. They come home, they got to pick up the kids, they got to make dinner. And, then most people sit around, they watch 4 hours of murder on television at night, but they're not really in contact with the land. And they're not seeing the changes that are going on and that are accelerating right now. But I'll tell you what, Native Americans see it, because they're living on that land. And they're seeing how fast stuff is changing. And it's got them really worried. And they should be worried about it. And we should be worried about it. Beyond the fact that, look, man, these people are Americans. I've served with Native vets. Native vets have served higher than any other percentage of Americans, and they're great soldiers. And they helped pull our chestnuts out of the fire in World War II with code talkers from multiple tribes. And we owe these people. We owe these people respect. We, owe these people, to take care of the land. Because, look, man, we can't go anywhere else. My family came over. Part of them came over on the Mayflower, and different groups came over in the 19th century, but we don't have any contact in Europe with any relatives. There's no one left back there. This is it. This is where we live. And if we don't learn to start taking care of it, God help our kids.
Yeah, you got a point there. It's I see a few websites up here that have to do with Standing Rock, and one of the captions is, the Constitution's Article 6 declares treaties to be the supreme law of the land. So, I guess we can wring our hands and tear at our hair a little bit over this, because I'm looking at a photograph that's pretty rough. Why the rule of law is a powerful idea for Standing Rock. Although the governor cites the rule of law in his eviction order, the Sioux have this. The Constitution...
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
That governor is on the payroll of somebody.
Yeah.
And there's no question about it. Look, just in the eviction order itself, he said, listen, winter's coming, so, it's not safe, so we got to evict you. And he says he wants to evict them in the middle of a blizzard in a camp they've already winterized, and he wants to do it on Custer's birthday? Come on, man.
That seems a little.
It's dishonest, and that governor is a liar, and he's dishonest, and he's on someone's payroll.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is, and that's the way a lot of our governors are, and it's the way a lot of our elected representatives are.
Well, this is
They
what
don't care about what's right and wrong and taking care of the average person. And this guy, beyond that, he tried to threaten us. He tried to get stores not to sell supplies to veterans who are coming out there. He threatened to close off access to the reservation, which is itself a violation of the treaties. But most importantly, he tried to prevent freedom of speech and assembly for American veterans in a time of peace to go to a place in order to protect the business interest of 5 or 6 billionaires who already have plenty of money. And they've hired private security forces. Let me give you an example. I had a guy out there, because we've already got people on the ground. We've already got a couple hundred on the ground so far. And they went out and they're doing recon and everything else around that bridge, which, by the way, that bridge should be open, because with that bridge sealed off, it gives causes an extra 3 hours for people to be able to make it to emergency services. So it endangers the lives of people who live on that reservation. And he went out to the bridge and they shined a flashlight across the bridge. And you know what happened? The private security, I don't know if it was private security or Morton County sheriffs, yelled across the bridge and said, "You better turn that flashlight off or I will light you up." Think about those words. A flashlight. A member of our group was threatened with murder by either a mercenary or what is supposedly an officer of the law for literally shining a light on the situation.
You keep using that word mercenary. Who is it? It's not Kraft again, is it?
Oh, it's Tiger something or other. They're Tiger Swan or something like that. I think they're out of Georgia.
Gotcha.
They're private security contractors. And what these people don't understand is, look, I understand a lot of them are vets. A lot of us are vets. Actually, all of us are vets, but we do have some civilians helping us. But, we're doing this for no pay. We ain't doing it for money, and we're not doing it to hurt anybody. So if someone's doing a job for money to hurt people, I got a problem with that. I got a moral problem with that.
Yeah, you should.
We all join the service to help people, to do good. And I know a lot of folks feel like we haven't been doing a lot of good lately. But that's why we join. Not to hurt people, not to kill people, not to destroy things. We did it to protect the United States, and we all took that oath.
Well,
to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States from enemies foreign and domestic.
Amen.
Well,
Amen.
This is pretty weird because I'm looking at this thing called yesmagazine.org, and it says, as written by Mark Trahant, on Monday, using a snowstorm as an excuse, the governor dipped into his legal tools and called on the most powerful words in his arsenal. Jack Dalrymple, governor of the state of North Dakota, order a mandatory evacuation of all persons located in the areas under the proprietary jurisdiction of the United States Army Corps of Engineers located in Morton County. The rule of law. The governor issued this proclamation knowing full well that none of the people at that camp will leave after his lofty proclamation. He knows that in order to enforce the rule of law, there will have to be a massive law enforcement action where hundreds of people are rounded up and incarcerated. And the word from the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and its allies is as expected. This state executive order is a menacing action meant to cause fear and is a blatant attempt by the state and local officials to usurp and circumvent federal authority. The USACE has clearly stated that it does not intend to forcibly remove campers from federal property. Now, that's Chairman Dave Archambault II in a news release. He says doesn't intend to forcibly remove campers from federal property. The government cites harsh weather conditions and the threat to human life. But he also goes on to say, as I have stated previously, the most dangerous thing we can do is force well-situated campers from their shelters and into the cold. If the true concern is for public safety, then the governor should clear the blockade and the county law enforcement should cease all use of flash grenades, high-pressure water cannons in freezing temperatures, dog kennels for temporary human jails, and any harmful weaponry against human beings. I mean, I can't believe that I just read that.
Yeah,
Oh,
listen,
well,
my
I
guys,
did.
when they went out there on their recon,
Yep.
they picked up all the shrapnel. They're using concussion grenades against people. That poor girl last week who nearly got her arm blown completely off had a concussion grenade thrown at her. And let me tell you, I've talked to people out there, and yeah, man, the native folks are pissed off. But this is all being led by, like, old ladies praying. So these people are beating up people. They're fabricating evidence. It is the worst situation I've ever seen. It's like they are treating Americans as an enemy. And it also makes me go back and look, I've been right in my life. I've been left in my life. But frankly, I used to laugh and scoff at people that would say this kind of stuff, when Obama was president. But yeah, man, that guy is not following the Constitution. He's not willing to put his sack on the line when it comes to enforcing the Constitution. And we are living in what is becoming a police state. I can tell you, my grandparents wouldn't have put up with living under the conditions we live under now, where people are scared to meet and they're scared about what they say. And there's just too much damn fear in this country.
Yeah, well, I've got my own opinions about Barack Obama and his whole Democrat crew, and that would be, I think he is an illegitimate president to start with. Can I use the B word? Yeah, I think he's just a lying bastard. Nothing that he's ever said has come to fruition, with the sole exception of his intention to fundamentally transform America. However, that said, this isn't the first time that the force of the state has been used against citizens unrighteously, and I suspect it won't be the last. But now, let me ask you about these vets that are set to converge on the area. What's up with that? How many of them do we expect? Where are they coming from? From everywhere, or what?
They're coming from everywhere. We told people to stop when we reach 2,000. I think there's probably going to be about 2,400 of us up there right now. We've got another 500 that are going to be a follow-on force. And we're probably going to maintain a permanent presence up at that camp of a few hundred vets at any time until this is over and until, the Constitution is respected. Because what generally happens in these situations is, and I'm sure what the Morton County Sheriff and the governor of North Dakota thinks is, as soon as they go home, then we'll go beat those people up. That ain't going to happen, man. Because if they do that, we'll be back there with 50,000 vets. Because people in this country care. I know the elite don't care. I know the media doesn't care. I've been calling them for months trying to get them out there. I've been calling for months for representatives of Congress. Nobody cares. They're like, what? We got more important stuff to do. This affects people's lives. This puts people in danger. It puts our freedom in danger. It puts our planet in danger. It puts our kids' futures in danger. And, on Barack Obama, I'll tell you something. I used to laugh at people who said this, but I honestly do believe the guy was a false prophet. Coming in talking about peace and harmony and how everyone was going to be doing better and living better. And you look the last couple of years, the country's never been more divided. People aren't living better. More money's going to people at the top, and those people don't do the work. I mean, listen, I haven't just been an Army officer. I mean, I made the bad mistake in my life to become a writer, which meant I seldom had any money at all. So I did all kinds of odd jobs to pay the bills and feed myself, from temping to tutoring to everything else. So the people who do the work, like let's say someone's a temp, they get paid like $8.50 an hour. But the company who's hired that temp is paying him $60 to the company. So what happened to that other, $52? Who does that go to? It's not going to the person doing the work. Same thing with Uber drivers. Same thing with all this stuff. We're just getting robbed on a daily basis, and we just sit back and take it because everybody's so scared to protect what they got. And I got to tell you, I ain't scared of anybody.
Let me ask you something.
And I don't have a gun. I ain't going to fight anybody. But, for me personally, I've given my life over to Christ, and I'm going to go exactly where he tells me to do, and I'm going to follow his example in everything.
Wow. It'd be pretty easy for somebody to come up with this question, which is, It seems to me like General Clark might have a little pull somewhere up there to get some sort of attention on somebody.
He doesn't. I mean, look, he was in politics. He's in business. No matter what you say, people smear you on stuff.
Yeah.
And frankly, I mean, look, he doesn't want me to be doing this. He said, I'm making the biggest mistake of my life. I could get killed out there. You know what? I don't care if I get killed out there. Doesn't matter, because I'm doing the right thing. And I know if I get killed out there, then, you know, I'll get to hang out and, you know, hear people play music for God. Be perfectly happy.
Wow. I tell you what, man. I'm just going to have to pause on that one for a minute because that's pretty strong stuff. It's about as strong as it gets. All right.
Yeah, but think about it, though, John. Think about how many of us who are veterans risked our lives for so much less than this. I mean, look, the Vietnam War was basically about protecting rice imports for Japan. Is that worth all those American lives? These wars we fought in the Middle East. I mean, we're not even getting oil out. We get nothing out of it. There's no strategic plan. There's no end goal. There's no where do we go from here? Why are we doing this? And yet plenty of people have been willing to go over and lose an arm or a leg and watch their friends get killed. For what? Not for us. Not for the average American. That's for sure.
How long has this been going on? How long has this standoff or whatever it is, this threat? How long has this threat been hanging over the Sioux?
Well, I think it started about in April or May when they bulldozed some graves and some kids went out and put themselves in front of the bulldozer. But it's continually escalated since then.
Okay. And whose jurisdiction is that land under? Federal or state?
Well, James, you want to answer that? Because I haven't let you speak enough, bro.
Well, no, I'm here to support everything that's going on here, and the Standing Rock is a sovereign nation. Okay, that was set up a long time ago. Phyllis Young and Russell Means were key in setting up the Lakota Standing Rock as a sovereign nation. Now, the thing that makes Standing Rock unique is all the other treaties have been violated. All of them. Every single one of them that they ever had with the United States has been violated. Fort Laramie and the treaty that Standing Rock is under, that one was the one that was still standing until this started. Because you got to understand, there's a major betrayal that's happened here beyond, I can't even believe it myself. Not only did they desecrate their lands and violate the most important treaty that Standing Rock has against the Lakota Sioux, we had the President of the United States many years ago go to Standing Rock, visit with people at Standing Rock, make promises with young students and teenagers saying, I will protect your rights. I will see to it that your lands will not be violated. I will see to it. I will see to it. And now you've got videos of teenage American Indians asking, I thought you were my friend. Please help us. They're hurting us. Why are you not responding? So the Fort Laramie trial, that treaty itself, that was the last vestiges of true freedom that made Standing Rock really unique, because that one had not been violated. Now it has been violated, and it's been violated by international banking cartels and oil and people sitting behind desks all over the world ignoring the situation. And that is not an understatement when I say ignoring. You had Hillary ignore it, you had Trump ignore it, you had the White House.
You had Hillary do worse than ignore it, man. People approached her during the campaign to talk about it, and she told them to get a life. Think about that. Get a life. That was her response to it. No wonder she lost the election. Neither she nor Obama have demonstrated an ounce of moral courage in this. Obama's waiting until things reach a fever pitch before he does anything, if he does anything.
So
my guess
situation,
is he won't do a thing.
No. So the situation, John, and everybody that's listening, is unique for the entire country and the world what's happened there, because the world is watching how the United States and its chain of command, all the way up to the commander-in-chief, has treated these people that were the part of the framers of our Constitution of the United States. They've fought in our wars. They've been under genocide. They've been tortured. They've been publicly humiliated before the entire world. And nothing has been done thus far to protect them and back off. We've got a big, huge problem, and I might add, a great opportunity to bring everybody together, because the people that I've heard that are on the ground there said spirit of that place is unlike anywhere in the world right now, because there's people coming in, as far as I know, from Costa Rica and other countries to be there that are vets, because I heard about it.
Yeah.
And the spirit of this place there, and there's 24-hour prayer groups that are going on there. It's a free society there. Everybody is helping everybody on the ground there. There's nothing like this going on anywhere else in the world. Period. It's a unique situation. It is what the many of the American Indians knew, that this is in their prophecy. This whole event that's happening.
Yeah.
And when I was lucky enough to be introduced to Wes from somebody I know in Washington, I got to tell you, this is the first white guy I've met that got it and understood it right from the beginning. Right from the beginning, it was like destiny for him to step up and do this. So this is a unique situation in history, and I know something great is going to come out of it, because the world is going to hear. They're going to hear what's really going on here, and then something even bigger is going to get ready to happen.
Yeah, let me toss something in here real quick. For there may be some people out on the caravan line that are rolling their eyes, going, "Okay, we get it," but let me read this little thing here. It's from Nick Stockton. He wrote it for the science department there at Wired.com. But take a listen to this. This is like insane, and it won't take long. So just hold your position, gentlemen. The protests against the Dakota Access Pipeline at the Standing Rock Indian Reservation, North Dakota, are on the surface about water quality. The pipeline's planned route, which closely mirrors the path of the would-be Keystone XL pipeline, goes right through the tribe's water source. And like Keystone XL, which President Obama vetoed this past February, the Dakota Access Pipeline has taken on larger significance as a conduit for worsened global climate change. There is no question as to whether the protest, if successful, would protect the tribe's water. No pipe, no possibility of a spill. But do protests like these significantly lessen the impact of global climate change? One way, maybe the only way, to know is to look at how protests affect the price of oil. Here's a quote. "We have to look at if it is impacting the industry and potentially discouraging or constraining their profits so they have less incentive to produce oil," says Lauren Stockman, research director for Oil Change International, a nonprofit that tracks fossil fuel economics. Fossil fuels are great energy sources because they are cheap and transportable and storable. But let's focus on the cheap. If fossil fuels get more expensive, things like electronic vehicles and renewable energy sources become more attractive to investors and consumers. Then, theoretically, the market goes green. Economics are way more complicated than that, but I'm going to keep this 101 level. First thing to consider is the Dakota Access Pipeline's cost, $3.8 billion to connect the Bakken oil fields in North Dakota to another pipeline leading to refineries on the Gulf Coast in Bakota, Illinois. I mean, moving oil makes money, but the Dakota Access Pipeline was built on promises and can only move oil if it delivers. It's like, what are these people even I mean, I'm perfectly ready to admit that I'm a moron, but it's like, really, we're talking about pushing something like this through to... So is this writer saying that if the pipeline doesn't go through, it'll make the price of oil go up, and therefore there'll be more interest in green vehicles and renewable energy, which of course there's no such thing. So I don't even understand what Casey's making here. Go ahead.
There's, and listen, I'm not a rocket scientist either.
Well, clearly I'm not either.
The thing is, when you look at these issues and you look at the impact of oil, what oil is you have to put an investment down to drill your well, okay?
Yeah.
But once you've drilled it, it's just putting up pure money to the owner of it. And they're sucking out the resources from it. But if you talk about like, oh, we got to transition to green, I mean, look, we do have to transition to something cleaner or our kids are going to die. But I will tell you the prices, I mean, I could build a 200 megawatt solar farm that I could be profitable at selling that energy at 5.5 cents a kilowatt hour. And that's a radical difference from where it was just 8 years ago. I mean, 8 years ago, it would have been like 23 cents a kilowatt hour. Wind, I think, is still going at like 16 or 17 cents. So it's not a question of how much does it cost. It's a question of keeping the money in oil. You know, when we went off the gold standard, we created something called the petrodollar. So the value of the dollar is intricately tied to oil. So you have like an intersection between banking and oil, which is why we have to constantly waste our resources to protect the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, because this is all tied in together. None of these things exist isolated. They all reinforce each other. And it's a system that is going to come apart at the seams eventually. So we might as well try and fix it as soon as we can, because oil keeps us vulnerable. Oil keeps us reliant on other people. Oil keeps us reliant on something that's going to destroy the planet and further increase the wealth and power of a few versus everybody else.
Well, I agree with you.
And you know, if you look at the history of the United States and what we've done, I mean, look, our whole problem with Iran was caused by the oil industry, because they said, oh, the Iranians they actually want to own their own oil in their own country. So we did a coup against their president. We've killed leaders of countries for this stuff. We've killed politicians in countries for this stuff. So these industries are not friends of democracy. They are not friends of the Constitution. They are not friends of the Bill of Rights. All they care about is their own money, which just blows my mind when you think these people are billionaires and they still feel they don't have enough. I mean, how much is enough?
Well,
You know, and if you want to go deeper into this, look, what I believe, because I've grown up all over this country. I grew up in Kansas and Colorado and the Mojave Desert, and you know, outside D.C. And my dad's from Arkansas, like, you know, middle of nowhere. My mom is from Brooklyn, so I kind of know this country. And look, people who voted for Trump were not voting for racism. There's probably a few that were, but I don't think most of them were. They're voting because they know they're getting screwed. And they just want to change this system and stop getting screwed. Because what they don't understand is they themselves, as white people, are living under colonialism.
oh yeah, that's for
What
sure.
happens is all the jobs, all the businesses have disappeared from the Midwest. And all the money flows into New York City, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and of course, into taxes in Washington, D.C. So that the local people who live in individual states, they don't get a choice in this stuff. And, you know, I'm not a lawyer, but these companies and these people have incredibly powerful legal teams, and they know how to rig the system. And they've been doing it for decades.
This is really weird. On October 10th, this is out of blastingnews.com. On October 10th, Indigenous Peoples Day, a series of well-known protests began after the U.S. Court of Appeals denied a ruling to halt the building of the Dakota Access Pipeline. This pipeline, also being built by a Houston-based company, is planned to be constructed under the Missouri River for carrying thousands of barrels of crude oil. With the Missouri River being the largest river in the United States, there are possibilities that the pipeline will bust, ending in extreme pollution of the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation's only source of water and water throughout America. In addition to this, the pipeline is being built through the ancient burial grounds of the Sioux tribe. But the other part is last weekend, and this was published on the 1st of November, right? Yes. Last weekend, a pipeline in North Dakota owned by the Houston-based oil company Oasis Petroleum ruptured. Currently, nearly 70,000 gallons of crude oil has leaked out from this pipeline into the White Earth River, a stream that flows into the Missouri River, and also the same river that the Standing Rock Sioux are trying to protect by protesting against the Dakota Access Pipeline. I would think the environmentalists would be absolutely insane over this. Where are they exactly? Why is it falling to the vets to show up? Where's the Sierra Club and all these other posers?
Well, that's an interesting thing because I've been working on some of these issues for the past couple months, and the way all these groups work, all these nonprofit interest groups, whether they're on the right or the left, whether they represent industry or the environment, they're all professional organizations. So the people who run them, what they're concerned about is getting more money in donations and increasing their own personal power. So they've all these organizations, they have big expensive buildings, their executives make $500,000 to $1 million a year, and they want to protect that. They're scared to lose money. The wealthier people get, the more frightened they get because they don't want to lose what they have.
Very true. That's a good point. Very true. Yep.
This is the most dangerous. Go ahead. Keep going.
And they're all these things are stovepiped.
Yep.
So it's like, well, I care about plastic pollution. Well, I only care about trees. Well, I only care about this. All these things are interconnected. Like, if you really went through what the problems were in the United States, you'd see that, equal parts on the left and the right are correct about things. That it's a mix of problems that we have. And instead of addressing those problems, people gain personal power and political power by, orienting on one faction. Because if you have one faction on your side, then you can get their money from them, as opposed to actually telling the truth and really trying to fix stuff.
Amen. Absolutely. That's correct. Totally agree.
It's just, it's too bad that anytime there's any sort of meaningful change, it's always preceded, almost always preceded, by either violence or the threat of it. But I'm wondering, without the mainstream, I just hate to say this, without either about, 10 million caravanners or some help from mainstream media, is there any chance that enough light is going to be cast onto this situation to actually do anything? Because it feels funny. I mean, I just sense that these mercenary types, the muscle up there that's coming against the Sioux, they're going to lean on them even harder. I mean, it's going to wind up being another.
Let me tell you this, John, on behalf of the vets and Wes and everybody, never underestimate the heart of a volunteer.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. The heart of a volunteer is the backbone of this country, and the vets are the true heroes coming in, and the people that are standing on the front lines have been beaten up, practically tortured, publicly humiliated, and unarmed.
Unarmed.
That's a very strong
we're all
spiritual
gonna be
force.
unarmed. I mean, we're looking to do this thing. We're looking to follow. I mean, me personally, but also most of the command staff. We're looking to follow like the example of Jesus Christ and Gandhi and other people, and we're going to let them beat the heck out of us. I hope they beat us, so we can turn the other cheek and really show Americans what courage is, because it's turning the other cheek. It's actually, and then forgiving the person who did it to you. Because look, man, I don't want anyone to go to jail for this stuff. I don't even want the guys who have rigged the system in the oil companies to go to jail. I just want them to stop doing what they're doing. It's like if you went home and your kids are making a mess in the room, your number one priority shouldn't be beating the crap out of your kids. It should be get them, hey, man, stop making a mess. Okay, now clean it up. That's it. That's the only way we can get through all this as Americans, because there's a whole lot of fear and hate and distrust that's out there right now. And the only way we can really get through it is if people forgive each other and come together. And look, for me, I know you probably got a lot of people that aren't religious that listen to your program, but dude, we're all children of God. And we all have to treat each other that way.
It was interesting, John, Wes took me to a meeting in Southern California with highly influential people, change makers in D.C. and the environmental movement and so forth. And one of the most interesting things happened there. You got a room full of enough money and influence to change things forever for the better. And there was a guy that spoke there, total outsider, that represented the evangelicals. And he got up and spoke, and he said, I hope this doesn't, interfere with the vibe here or whatever. He apologized. And he says, we're the primary major voters of this country, and we are very influential. And how do we work together? And he said something that went right through the heart of everybody, and he got the most applause out of anybody there. And he said, this is about our children. This is about our children. This is about protecting our children and our families and our happiness in the future and the health and the Constitution of this country. And he said it completely differently, but he got everybody's ear there. And I'll never forget that moment, because he went right to the heart of the matter about who we are as a nation, who we are as a constitution, and who we are and how we treat each other as people in this country. It was quite amazing to see that.
All right. Well, how long? Oh boy. I guess you're prepared to stay in this as long as it takes. I mean, how long? I mean, anybody got a crystal ball that's working or what?
I don't have a crystal ball, but I mean, I can't take credit for it. I mean, this idea for me came from above, but when I looked at when we could plan it, I just planned it because I got divorced a few years ago and I got joint custody of the kids, and I figured, well, here's a couple days I don't have custody of the kids. We'll just do it these days. So I gotta take off, but I'm going to come back as soon as I don't have custody of them again, and I'm willing to live here to protect these people, because what's wrong is wrong, and it's not about the opportunity or wait until the right time when you get the most exposure for it or something else. I mean, look, when you see something wrong, you got to fix it right there, and you got to be willing to stay until it's fixed.
Oh boy. All right. So now, what about the mobilization of the vets? Is the word out?
The word seems to be getting out. I mean, look, we just put a call out to people. We're self-organizing this whole thing, and by self, I don't mean me. I mean, like, people just come onto the group, and everybody picks up a role, and we've all been in the service, so we all understand kind of organizational structures, and everyone knows what their strengths and weaknesses are, and we just jump in and start working. I mean, we got people out there, we're all working like 17, 18 hours a day on this. Like, I get up at 4:30 every morning, start answering messages, start answering emails, start answering everything that comes across Signal and Wicker and everything else for us. And I know everybody else is doing the same thing. We are coordinating, and we've raised an entire regiment of veterans within 8 days of no one being paid for something that's going to take place during a work week, 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. And everybody's out there with the expectation that they will be injured and possibly jailed. And we did it in 8 days. So people in this country still care about freedom. They still care about the Constitution, and they still care about their fellow Americans. And they're willing to put their bodies where it counts instead of just writing memos to people or pressing a button on something.
Well, now, how is this being done? Social media or what?
We put the call out on Twitter, and then I created a event page on Facebook, and
Okay.
Michael Wood Jr., who started doing this thing with me, he's a Marine vet and a retired Baltimore cop. And he's got a much bigger social media presence than I do. But we've just been working kind of day and night on this thing.
All right, so if people
we put out an operations order saying, here it is, here's what you need, here's what we're going to do, and it simply spread.
Okay, well, how do people find you on Facebook?
There's like a Wes Clark Jr. page, but I think they created another page because I'm getting flooded with so much information and so many decisions have to be made. Plus, I have to concentrate on working with all the different factions that are out there at Standing Rock, which has actually wound up taking a majority of my time. But so the organizational stuff is being handled back here.
Okay, I gotcha.
It's all done over the internet. But I'm sure they've already created a veteran stand for Standing Rock page. I'm sure there's a website out there. I know Michael created a GoFundMe site in order to pay for, we had to get tents, heaters. Buses are incredibly expensive to rent for like 8-9 days. And then whatever we have left over is going to go into funding for follow-on forces, as well as going to the people living in these camps and the tribes to help them out. Share and share alike.
Well, we've got triple dub on all of them, of course. OMAZE.com, official Standing Rock shirt. Get yours now. Then we've got NIVA, NIVAVets.org, Northwest Indian Veterans Association, sending a support convoy to Standing Rock. We've got women, or as I've come to pronounce that word lately, woman, plural, .unify.org/Standing Rock. Standing Rock latest updates. Join the live stream now, unify.org. And then keep the peace at Standing Rock. Support water protection camps. Ask Obama to revoke Army Corps order to evacuate water protector camps by December 5. So there are 2,000 veterans to give protesters a break at Standing Rock. USA Today. I think that would... Huffington Post has got it too. 2,000 veterans to form human shields to protect Standing Rock. Here's one for GoFundMe / Veterans for Standing Rock. Put dashes in between the words. There's a bunch of stuff here. The freethoughtproject.com. U.S. Congresswoman and military vet to join the resistance by joining with fellow veterans at Standing Rock.
Tulsi Gabbard's coming out.
Yep. Thousands of veterans head to Standing Rock to form human shield. There's a bunch of stuff. All you got to do is into the search engine, just type in Veterans for Standing Rock, and man, here it comes. I mean, a lot of it, too. Amazing.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
But right now, we got a South Dakota Highway Patrol looking in our window and following us and talking on the cell phone.
Right at this
I'm
moment.
in a car with no weapons in it, and another vet and a friend of mine, and my guess is this guy's going to try and pull us over while we're on the phone.
Well, hang with us for a minute.
All right.
Wow, this is extraordinary. It really is.
That's all right. Yeah, if they arrest me, they arrest me. We haven't broken any laws.
No, it's never stopped anybody before, has it?
No, it hasn't. But at the same time, there's all kinds of injustice in this country, and we're trying to tie people together through peace and love, and get over identity politics, and actually accept that we're all Americans and we're all in this together, man.
This is really, this is disturbing. The NIVA Vets, NIVA Vets, and that's Northwest Indian Veteran Association. So, NIVAVets.org. Here's the statement. The peaceful protest in North Dakota against the Dakota Access Pipeline and to protect treaty rights, sovereignty, and natural resources has significance to everyone, native and non-native. This pipeline will transfer Bracken oil into the Missouri River over the Ogallala Aquifer, which covers Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, New Mexico, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Texas, and Wyoming, providing drinking water for millions of people. The basic human right of access to clean water to our future generations is in danger. If we allow these important water resources to be polluted, we will fail in our duty to protect the right of those yet unborn. But it goes on to state here, hurting women and children who are peacefully protesting this pipeline using private mercenaries and trained attack dogs while conducting a media blackout are tactics of domestic terrorism. NIVA reports the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and the peaceful protesters at Sacred Stone Camp. As veterans of the United States Armed Forces, we have fought to defend the rights of freedom and to defend this nation against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. Therefore, we as veterans feel it is our duty to protect and support the people's right to free speech and their mission to protect the sacred. And then it says, we need your help to accomplish this mission. We're raising funds to make this very important journey to support the DAPL protest. I had no idea. I mean, all you have to do is look at it, but there's so much. We are absolutely awash in information, but I got to tell you, I think this is one of those things that it's almost like somebody's rolled the clock back to 1968 or something. I mean, there's
no, it's like that. It's what they're trying to do is, listen, we're essentially living almost in a police state. And I tell for people out there who think a gun's going to protect them from this, a gun ain't going to protect you, man.
Nope.
The United States government, I mean, you may be able to take some guy down who kicks in your door, but the United States government and its military and police and security forces, they're literally unstoppable. You can't fight them. The only way you can do stuff is peaceful. If you look at world history over the last 200 years, if you try and do a violent overthrow of a government, you have a less than 5% chance of success. And if you succeed, you inherit a country that is torn apart with hatred and resentment for generations. But if you do it non-violently, if you do it without weapons, if you do it by being really brave and taking that punch in the face and taking that kick in the gut and taking that baton on your head, you got a 60% chance of success. You know, I'm a numbers guy on that stuff. I mean, for me, it's nonviolence all the way.
That's good to hear. It really is. It makes a lot of sense.
And instead of buying a gun, I mean, look, buy encryption, man. Buy an encrypted phone. Buy an encrypted computer. Because how they get you nowadays is your information.
Oh, boy. What's become of the policeman?
Well, where's the cop there, Sean? Is he still behind us? He dropped off.
Okay, good.
He looked at us. He called us in. Maybe there'll be someone up ahead. Who knows? I don't care.
Right.
At least it'll be warm in a jail, and I'm assuming I'll get a meal or two.
It's supposed to get cold here pretty quick this weekend. I heard there's a big system over Alaska that's supposed to bring cold down, real serious cold down on most of the continental U.S., so this is not exactly the ideal time of year to be going up to Dakota. It gets pretty damn cold up there.
Oh, it's not at all, man. It's 3 weeks before Christmas. It's like I've told everybody, man, do not bring any weapons. Do not, try and fight the police. Don't do any of that stuff because I don't want anyone hurt. I don't want anyone to miss Christmas morning with their kids.
Right. You know what, man? I'll tell you what. We need a whole bunch of people like you, Wes, and you too, James.
You know what? There's millions of people like me out there. It's just we've all been sitting on the couch watching it happen, thinking we don't have any power simply because we don't have any money. Because we're told all the time on the television by the mainstream media and everyone else that you got to look a certain way and you got to have money and you got to have power to get anything done in life. And I don't think you do. I think you got to have belief. And I think you got to have faith. And then I think you have to put it into action. And I don't mean action violence. I mean, you need to live the words that you read, not just sit and passively listen to them.
Wow. This is amazing. Now, how much longer will it take you to get where you're going?
Oh man, we got a while, but I got to tell you, I've already got like 50 messages I got to answer and some problems I got to solve. And I wish I could stay on longer. I mean, these guys have a phone, and I got a phone, so if we do get pulled over and arrested, we'll just film it and put it out on Facebook Live if there's any, And here's another thing. We have noticed that, our communications have been interrupted. They have been jammed. Certain of our things have been hacked. We've been unable to friend anybody who's been at Standing Rock on Facebook, but we're able to friend anyone else. So the government is involved in our electronic communications.
Yeah.
And they don't belong in those electronic communications. I could see if we were calling for violence or something or hurting people, yeah, okay, we should be under observation. We should be, watched or interrupted. But, for going out there and trying to live the gospel, they got no right to do this to us.
Well, look, James, make sure Wes has my phone number. If anything happens, I don't care if it's 3 a.m. Ring me, will you?
Yeah, I will do so.
Sure. I mean, look, I'm hoping these guys will see what a huge error they've made trying to up the stakes on all of us, and they just back off. Because look, man, no matter how much money they spent on this thing or how they may have to reroute it, no amount of money is worth someone's life.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm almost stunned listening to this, because in my mind is playing out all these different scenarios. I hope that you get your way, and I hope that these people do exactly what you suggested that they might, which is just realize that, hey, these people are unarmed. We can't go leaning on these people. This is wrong. They have a right to protest this. This is constitutionally protected speech. It is.
I'm hoping these people develop a conscience.
We could use one.
That's the only way we're going to save this country, is if people start developing a real conscience in how we treat each other.
Well, man, we haven't had much of a conscience when it comes to blowing the hell out of people overseas for I don't know how many decades, a lot of them, ever since the 60s. So what is that, 5 decades of blowing people up overseas? It had nothing to do with anything.
And that's immoral. It's immoral the way we do it. But people are told, look, people in this country are trained to respect authority, and they're trained to be spectators.
Yeah.
They're trained in obedience from the day they enter schools till they graduate. And the way the whole media works is, all you have to do is watch a 30-minute news program, and you'll see, they're talking about a whole lot of nothing. The people who are the actual newscasters don't have a very deep grasp of history, economics, international relations. They're in those jobs because they're good looking and they're pretty. Got a nice voice.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is sit through the commercials, and every commercial is, okay, here's a commercial where the oil industry tells you how much they're doing to save the planet. Oh, and here's another commercial about this bank that's going to look out for your interests. Oh, and here's another commercial for a pharmaceutical company to help you not be so depressed at how screwed up the world is. I mean, think about that. Those are the 3 main powers that control our news. 2 groups of people robbing us and destroying the planet, and then a third to provide you drugs so you don't feel bad about it.
Well, Roger Ailes himself up at Fox News said that there are some things he'd be happy to get into, except for one thing, and it was about the vaccines. And that is, half of our advertising budget is made from pharmaceutical companies, so we can't do this, because if we do, we'll lose half of the money that we're pulling into the network right now. So, hey, okay, but sleep well.
You're right, but that's the whole problem with the United States.
Oh yeah.
These days, people care. People who have a lot of money just keep needing more, and they're willing to overlook morality to get it. If they lost that advertising from those pharmaceutical companies and something else, okay, so maybe an anchor would get like $700,000 instead of $900,000 pay, or the person on the board, would only get $100,000 instead of $500,000. I mean, how much does it take to live? If you need more than $500,000 to live in this country, man, you got problems.
Yeah, somebody's got one. Yep, definitely. Look, I don't know how possible this is, but I think this is. I just sense that this is much more important than people think. It's not just a. Look, it's like you said, we're indoctrinated by television, but this isn't just a bunch of Indians squawking about something that they have no business squawking about. This is, in my opinion, this is tremendously important, and I would really appreciate it if we might be able to work out some sort of an update. I wouldn't care if it was a daily update. I don't care if it's a 5 or 10-minute update.
I'll sort it out with you, John. I will sort it out with you, John.
James will be on the ground out there. He'll sort that stuff out. I'll tell you, man, but the only reason I'm talking, because this is really one of the only interviews I've done. I talked to a guy from Task and Purpose magazine a couple weeks ago, and then I spoke to some woman from Slate a day or two ago for 30 minutes. But I'll be honest, man, I don't have the time to do a lot of press out there, because we got so many moving pieces to this operation, and I can't let it fail. I mean, I'll talk to anyone, after it's done, and I'm not required on the ground. And just so you know, I'm never going to run for public office. And I'm not going to do that stuff, because I feel like if you're doing stuff for yourself, then it's just for you, and it really doesn't matter. So I'd prefer if you interviewed other people from our group rather than me, just to get other perspectives on it and what people think about it. And because, for me personally, man, when this is over, I'd rather just go back to my house, play the guitar, sit in the garage, have some cigarettes, and, get back to writing.
Okay, well, look, you do what you got to do. James will be hopefully our conduit to keep up with everything that's going on up there, and I mean it. We'll see this thing through with you as best we can all the way to the end. Okay?
You got
All
it.
right, thank you, brother.
All right, well, look, I got one
Thank
more
you.
thing to say, and it may not mean anything to you, but it does mean quite a bit to us. And Pastor Cage is next, trust me. You two men have absolutely, in the manner of the late Patrick McGowan, gloriously illustrated and vindicated the right of the individual to be individual, an individual with a conscience. And I hereby induct you both into our Order of the Ark Knights with the additional title of Lionhearts for putting yourselves, your fortunes, and your sacred honor on the line by doing this in support of a righteous cause. And this assembly rises to you both, Sir Wesley and Sir James. And thank you very much. God bless and protect you out there. Please stay in touch.
You bet. Thank you very much.
Be seeing you.
Holy cow.
And you.
Oh my God, were they just knighted by John B. Wells?
I think so.
Did they get knighted?
Oh my
Sir
goodness.
Wesley Clark?
Yes.
Sir, what was the order of the who and the what's-its?
Yeah, the Order of the Who in Whoville.
That was a crazy, crazy interview because he put so much energy into. Well, I think he's building trust with the audience, building trust with the people that he called out, the veterans, the people that he's asking to come and stand up. And he's saying, like, I'm willing to die. I'm willing to move. I'm willing to move to Standing Rock and live there to protect these people. And he is like telling stories about things that he hasn't witnessed, that he hasn't seen, because he says they're not there. But he's talking about vets being waterboarded at the camp.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that.
I never
Yeah.
heard about anything like that.
Nope.
So he's spreading misinformation in this interview. And he also talks about how angry he is with Governor Dalrymple and how that guy must be on the payroll
On a
somehow,
payroll, yeah.
that he would be allowing all of this stuff to happen. In addition to talking about Tiger Swan as if he's not really sure who they are.
Tiger Bird or whatever
Tiger
it is.
something.
Tiger something. But they're from Georgia and they have blah, blah, blah.
Not really sure. He always plays stupid. He always is like, I don't know things. I have no clue. But he does. He knows very intimately what these people do. And, as he said, he met on the bridge with Eric Prince. He was out on the bridge.
Yeah.
The other thing that he talks about is how, if people are doing this for money, if there are people out there that are doing this for the money, he's got a problem with that.
Yep.
That's something that he can't stomach, that kind of thing, because it's wrong. That's wrong for people to do this for the money. And I find it very interesting. He would say that when in episode 9 of American PsyOp, he talks about the fact, or the producers of the show talk about the fact that his father, at the time that he was out at Standing Rock, was negotiating a $5 billion deal with Blackwater, I think it's called. And that's a lot of money, and that's his dad
Yeah.
that's involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for money. And all that they do is tell you that, like, oh, well, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
My dad told me not to go out there. In fact, during this interview, he said, this Wells tells him, well, I'm sure that your father, General Clark, can do something and reach out to people and help you in some way. And he's like, no, he can't. He can't help me. and if he says anything, people will attack him. And by the way, he didn't even want me to come out here. And we learned none of that was true.
Yeah.
His father was well aware. His father was proud of him. And his father was like gathering together with people that were going to be part of the veteran stand, working with him out at Standing Rock prior to him going out there. Just prior to him going out there. Sadef Buyaktaman and Kayep Buyaktaman Daddy.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Buyaktaman, remember that dude?
I sure do.
What do you think about that?
Well, those photos that we put up in one of our shows, showed them all sitting together out in the patio and having a barbecue and chumming things up. It was well before any of this stuff. And in the PsyOp, American PsyOp, he talks about like he's so distant from this person. Harley Sadefa, yeah, she's with this, with that, and he tries to hide these relationships. The thing that he's really good at, and what he's tries to do anyways, is he hides all these relationships. In fact, in American PsyOp, he can barely utter a Kathleen Bennett's name, or just acts like he has no idea what's going on with this Lakota woman, supposedly a descendant from Wounded Knee or something like that. I mean, he was with her grandson and our colleague Josh Long trying to meet with TYT to get this story out. And he was bringing him there to have his influence to get this story out, which it never got out.
I made a mistake before I said Blackwater. That was the name of the company that was Tiger Swan before it was Tiger.
Okay, yeah.
I meant Blackstone.
Blackstone.
Yes,
okay.
I just looked it up and it says...
Correction.
And this is from the transcript of their Revelations podcast, episode number 9 on the American PsyOp. It's pretty nuts at that point that you had asked for help. So your father was also working as an advisor with the Blackstone Group, starting in 2013, and started an overseas energy company for them. Did he tell you that while you were at Standing Rock? The Blackstone Group was negotiating a $5 billion stake in Energy Transfer Partners, which owns the pipeline. And he's like, oh, no. I never heard that. And when I worked with him, I was always relegated to the minor unpaying clients. Like, I was never involved in any of the bigger business things that he did. I think he might have gotten brought in as a consultant to open a door to someone overseas. Like, I don't think he's planning stuff or involved in the day-to-day or anything else. Which is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you not know? Did you not know about anything? Or do you know that he definitely wasn't really that involved in negotiating a deal for Energy Transfer Partners with Blackstone? I mean, this guy is just so full of crap.
Yeah.
That it's hard for me to believe that, knowing all of this, that this American PsyOp is anything other than window dressing.
Yep,
is
exactly.
anything other than whitewashing of what Wes Clark and his daddy were involved in at Standing Rock. But what's more disgusting is the fact that he tried to pass himself off as this progressive, Christian, God-fearing man that is just out there for the good of humanity, because he's not getting paid anything. He doesn't want anything. In fact, he's disgusted with all the greedy people out there that only do things for money. At the same time, in this interview with John B. Wells, he makes sure that he fluffs all of the Trump-supporting MAGAs that are listening.
Yep, exactly.
He's like, Barack Obama is a false prophet. And he's saying things like, I don't think that the people that voted for Trump voted for racism. I think they're just, voting for somebody that's going to make things better. When in reality, statistics and studies of who voted for Trump in this country show that the majority of the places that voted for Trump are places that had a rise in the number of, in the population of people of color, and that the demographic was changing such that the white people were being outnumbered by people of color. Those were the places that went for Trump more than any place else. How is that not voting for white supremacy?
Exactly.
I don't understand
True.
how this man is trying to whitewash something that we all clearly know did not go down like that. And then, of course, he says he's willing to stay and protect those people until it's fixed. I'm willing to live there, he says.
Yeah.
And when you see something wrong, you have to be willing to stay and fix it until it's fixed. Like you did
Yeah.
when the blizzard hit and you flew out on a private jet.
Exactly.
Like you did when you found out what happened to Kathleen Bennett and her mother, Mary. Two Native women, two defenseless Native women that your mercenary veterans had arrested, thrown out of camp, and separated. You helped to separate an indigenous family, and you didn't do anything that you said here that you would do. You didn't stay and fix it. You didn't try and fix it. You tried to deflect. You tried to wash your hands like Pontius Pilate. You tried to put the blame on someone else. That's not the same energy that he brought in this interview, what he gave to Standing Rock. It's not the same energy. But one of the other things I found very interesting at the end of the broadcast, if you were listening, is what John B. Wells said. Not the part about giving them knighthoods, not that part, where he is talking about these different organizations that were promoting the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock and going out to Standing Rock. One of them was NEVA Vets, and another one was unify.org. And I want to look at unify.org for just a moment because I found it very interesting that he mentioned that unify.org group. So let me show you from the website of unify.org some of the things that stood out to me that I found very interesting, because one of the events that is listed there is this global OM, and there's a whole bunch of different people that are supposedly, I don't know, spiritual leaders, gurus of some sort. And I don't know all the faces on this page, but I know Tim Robbins.
Oh, yeah.
I see Tim Robbins there. And there's Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard back there.
And then there's Russell Brand, the guy that just showed up on Tucker Carlson's program recently.
Yeah.
And then, of course, over on the right, there's a guy wearing an Indian headdress.
Yeah.
That guy is Phil Lane Sr. And Phil Lane Sr. is associated with a bunch of the what they call fake shaman.
Okay.
That were being promoted through Standing Rock. Phil Lane being one of them, specifically promoted by people like Desiree Kane, who was also part of this PsyOp podcast and this PR group. And he was also promoted along with other fake shaman like Winona LaDuke and her daddy, Sun Bear. All of these people, Red Wolf Pope, all of these fake shaman were being promoted at Standing Rock. People that, rather than be actual spiritual leaders, were predating on people, using their status as some sort of leader, spiritualist, guru, speaker, indigenous leader of some sort to defraud people. And he was prominently featured in this other event for the Peace on Earth event. They've got all sorts of indigenous leaders, and he is front and center.
Yeah, I see.
Right in the front of all of them. Like he's the most important one for some reason. And he appears in a whole bunch of other of these pages. I just wanted to show you a couple of them. But you know who else appears there?
Who?
That stuck out at me? Deepak Chopra. There he is on the Unify webpage, Deepak Chopra. And there's like more Indians above him. And it's about a global peace and meditation. Now, the reason why, I don't know that everyone knows that Phil Lane Sr. is one of many fake shaman out there. I don't know that people understand that Tulsi Gabbard was this Bernie bro come Trump supporter,
Yeah.
like Jill Stein and like so many of the other people that were out at Standing Rock that handed the presidency to Trump, that gave us the Trump presidency, who were aligned with the Russian propaganda and the Russian support, as Sean Stone and as Deepak Chopra are. In fact, here's an interview of that Deepak Chopra granted to Sean Stone on RT.
Oh, boy.
As part of his Watching the Hawks show that he had on Russian television news. But it's not just that. Deepak Chopra and Sean Stone, the person that Wes Clark claims called him to come out to Standing Rock along with James Martinez, along with Oliver Stone, Sean Stone's dad, is the fact that they worked together going forward in another scam fraud cult. And I'm not saying that this page set up to help people escape the scam fraud cult is saying that. Here's a website that is about the Sacred Breath Academy that is out of California. And you can see here that this website is trying to find people who have been at these Sacred Breath Institute retreats in Northern California and throughout the United States, urging people that this is a deadly cult and that people that are part of this cult or have been victims of this cult can visit a website and report the Sacred Breath Academy and get information to report and expose and to do the best to rescue victims of this cult.
Wow.
Right? Now, we also know that Wes Clark said that he was part of the I Am cult, and Sean Stone is part of the I Am cult, and James Martinez in that interview is also part of the I Am cult. But in this next clip, this is from his Instagram page. You see that Sean Stone is on his Instagram promoting the Sacred Breath Academy. And here is from his The Real Sean Stone Instagram, and it says part 2 of the conversation with Sean Stone and Kaya Lee of the Sacred Breath Academy. And I have to say, I have to give another quick shout out to Arturo Tafoya, because on the Conspiracy Distillery page, they have a video about Sean. Well, I think he has multiple videos about Sean Stone, actually. But on one of the videos about Sean Stone, where they talk about the deep breath, sacred breath, whatever, academy, where they hold their breath until they're almost going to pass out or something. It's really weird. It's really weird. It's also got some other weird, I don't know. It's giving Sister Wives cult, harem for Sean Stone, kind of a vibe where people are encouraged to be naked and do weird sex things. Yeah. I don't know. It's go to the Conspiracy Distillery, watch the video for yourself, draw your own conclusions. What I will tell you is that on this website that is trying to save people from Sean's cult, they have a whole section about Deepak Chopra and how messed up Deepak Chopra is and what he has done to people out there. And here's some of the things that they say about Deepak Chopra. It says, not totally unsurprisingly, this scam fraud cult is endorsed by Deepak Chopra. You think you should trust him? You're wrong. And then it goes on to tell us a little bit more about a bunch of different links that you can find. Can I have a sip of your water, Duke?
Sure.
There's one link that goes to the Daily Beast titled Jeffrey Epstein Has a Secret Charity. Here's who he gave his money to. And in an excerpt from that, it says, billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein may have stopped trumpeting his million-dollar donations to charities in light of accusations that he molested dozens of underage girls, but he continues to quietly distribute his wealth, including to the nonprofits of Deepak Chopra, Elton John, and a doctor linked to President Trump through a shadowy private foundation called Gratitude American Ltd. So there's one link. Another one. They asked Deepak Chopra, the guru of sayings that mean nothing, to fact check his own tweet. And then there's an article link there about the misinformation that Deepak Chopra tweets. But then there's also the fact that he's hawking $350 meditation glasses. Oh. Glasses? Meditation glasses? That's crazy. And of course, they're a fraud, according to this. Honey, have you heard of meditation glasses? Do you think that there's something that would work?
I think so. I got these from a rocket scientist at a surplus store, so they're working pretty good.
These people have the worst frauds out there. Now, I want to keep going on this list because there are some scarier things as you go down this list. Besides the meditation glasses, don't buy them, guys. Don't buy them, okay? It says here that he was somebody that was a self-help guru themselves, wrote this article saying, here's why you shouldn't listen to people like me. I learned the hard way that the people trying to solve your problems often need help the most. Deepak Chopra is a fraud. There's another Vox article there. Then there's a link to an article about Demare, the paper reporter represented La Jolla New Age guru Deepak Chopra in a series of lawsuits that ended up in front of McConnell. His attorneys later alleged that McConnell and other members of the local bench had ruled against them. So there is an article about the lawsuits, and then there's another article at cultureeducation.com about the San Diego Superior Court jury unanimously finding against Deepak Chopra regarding blackmail claims made within a lawsuit filed by the New Age guru. Chopra claimed that a former employee wanted $50,000 to stay quiet about allegations that he had sex with a prostitute. And then there is another article in the cracked.com that talks about because of his New Age pseudoscience-y beliefs, Deepak Chopra routinely gets in online arguments with scientists and skeptics, defending his numerous personal convictions, such as the belief that people can enter a state of perfect health, which would prevent them from dying.
Wow.
Now, that's clearly nonsense, and Chopra isn't doing the world any favors by trying to convince vulnerable people that that is true. But there is more. In fact, they had all sorts of different links to other situations involving his institutes, health centers. He had a health center called, I'm gonna totally massacre this, Maharishi Ayurveda. In some cases, it's spelled Ayurveda, operating out of Lancaster, Massachusetts, and that is a health center that had its license involuntarily revoked by the state of Massachusetts in 2012, and the center was completely dissolved into nothing in Massachusetts. In 2011, Deepak Chopra received cash in what could be seen as a money laundering scheme from Miss Hillier, who had embezzled the funds illegally. Additionally, court cases and public records include allegations of fraud against Chopra. In a case in 1995, a woman tried to claim medical services provided by Deepak in Palm Beach, Florida, where he has never been licensed to practice, were tax deductible and likely a result of false claims by Chopra that such services were tax deductible. This is common with this type of alleged fraud, but the tax records denied that it was deductible. In 2013, Chopra was referenced in a lawsuit against Trivedi by a woman who claimed sexual harassment and abuse. In 2007, Chopra's private foundation voluntarily dissolved in California, but likely it was as a result of continued propaganda promoting this guru, where investigative reporting exposed his alleged crimes, fraud, and malpractice would be more appropriate for anyone remotely committed to honest reporting and the truth. In 2014, Chopra's foundation, formerly operating in Iowa, merged with CF Merger Corporation in California, in order to disappear the Iowa Foundation into the new entity. Then he changed names again in California to Chopra Foundation. And to avoid any accountability, he makes general statements about promoting world peace while claiming to be a nonprofit and engaging in research and experimentation on those who pay for services and donate. Heal does not support the experimentation nor brainwashing of subjects for any studies, particularly where the victims and subjects are not providing fully informed consent, and they're advised of all risks and benefits involved in participations of such studies. And that's where we tend to draw the line with this kind of stuff. Deepak Chopra reportedly earned his doctorate in 1969 at the All Indian Institute of Medical Sciences, which was given a global score of 37.8 out of a possible 100 by the U.S. News, which by all reasonable accounts is a failing grade. A failing grade in the U.S. is anything less than 60% in most jurisdictions and districts, making 37.8 failing miserably. And even worse, Chopra earned, at best, a cumulative GPA of not 5, but 0.65. 0.65, not even 1, from the Princeton GPA scale. And at worst, a cumulative score of 0.0. O sea, es un pendejo. And at the All Indian Institute of Medical Sciences. This was calculated by adding up his grades of his transcripts. And they have links to the transcripts here so you can check them out. So the dude's credentials are bad. His health care facilities have been shut down. Licenses pulled. His organization HEAL. In addition to all of this, this all relates to HEAL's primary campaign to stop child trafficking and institutionalized child abuse. And Deepak works with Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey is partners with Hiram W. Smith, who owns the property where Eagle Ranch Academy operates, and is business partners with the co-founders of WWASPS. You can find all of that explained in detail at www.heal-online.org/era staff. In the 2014 standoff between the pro-slavery advocate Cliven Bundy and the FBI, Robert Lavoy Finicum, brother to Guy Finicum of Recreation Retreat, also on the HEAL, the HEAL, that organization, watch list, and reportedly co-founded by David Taylor, formerly with Cross Creek, which is one of WWASPS programs, was killed in the shootout while actively engaging in combat against federal authorities. In addition, WWASPS was co-founded by Robert Litchfield, who is the former director of Provo Canyon School. And you can look at the whole history of Larry Stenditz and his connections to all of that and the Franklin cover-up at the Heal.online that I just listed to you before. In a strange twist, they found an article listing Jeffrey Epstein and Mel Sembler of Straight Inc. reporting on child trafficking, exploitation, and institutionalized abuse. Why is that of any interest to anybody? Well, Mel Sember has also endorsed Sean Stone and Deepak Chopra's Sacred Breath Academy.
Oh, okay.
That they're associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Did you get that part?
Yeah.
It's freaky.
Yeah, that is.
And by the way, in case you were wondering whether Mr. John B. Wells of Conspiracy Theory Radio, it's actually called, it was called, it's defunct now, it no longer exists, Midnight Express or something like that.
Okay.
If you were wondering whether he was a complete QAnon nut that went off the deep end, because at the time of the interviews with Wes Clark and James Martinez, although they're espousing all these conspiracy theories on and, you know, ultra-right ideology like Michelle Obama is a man and has a penis and Obama is a Muslim and all this other stuff. And Sandy Hook is fake and all of that. Yes, he is a QAnon adherent, and he pushed QAnon heavily at his radio program and through all of his promotions. Here's a video of him doing just that. Listen for yourselves. Here is John B. Wells.
But I digress. You need to be ready to sit in place calmly for about 10 days. If you got 2 weeks, you're good. You really are. Water, food, and fuel. Just get ready. Because I'm thinking that this Aurora thing is a false flag that Q warned us about. Now I say again, and I mean it, Q is absolutely, positively real. It is not a scam, a dodge, it's not a con, it's not another flat earth deal, it's none of that, it's real. It's absolutely, positively real. Because I know that it's real. Or I wouldn't sit here and make a dumpski of myself saying something's real when it is not, and could be easily shown that it is not. Well, if you know where to look, it can be easily shown that it is real, and it's been confirmed to me to my utter and complete satisfaction that it's real. So, 10 days, there will be fireworks. The rats are running rampant in a frenzy, a panicked frenzy, I might add, all over Washington, D.C. They really are, and other places. The Clintons will be on the clothesline. Numerous others. Well, yes, of course they are.
Now, if you believe that,
I don't know.
then when Duke has some high-tech X-ray vision glasses to sell you.
I got them from a rocket scientist at the military supply store. You can pick them up cheap.
Do you believe? Because if you believe that, apparently that's all it takes. And John B. Wells, he knows for a fact that Q is real and that you should do what Q says and listen to Q because Q is real. Man, what a bunch of Mickey Mouse con men these all are. And Wes Clark is the cherry on top of the sundae of con men. And we will be showing you how obvious the con was from the get-go for the people that were producing this American PsyOp. It wasn't like when we were interviewing Wesley while he was still at Standing Rock and pretending that he was stupid and he didn't know anybody and he didn't have any connections to anyone.
Yeah.
This is in 2020. The Wells talking about QAnon is in 2019. This PsyOp program were produced in 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
So they knew all of these things. It's easily findable. You can Google. Google is your friend.
Exactly.
Apparently these people don't know how to do that. But we will continue to show you how much of a con this whole American PsyOp podcast is, to whitewash the images and to deflect from the criminality of Wes Clark Jr. and his daddy. Thank you for being here on A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And do Gomez-Schempp.
You've been listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP, Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Thanks for being here. Good night, and God bless.